Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm on with Runa and Gordon from Hallmark and Mike from Pratt Remodeling. And Quinn, let me see here. You just sent me a note too. Okay, let me try again if I can make you. I still can't make you a panelist, Quinn. Not sure why, but maybe when you get to the office, we can try again. We're going to go ahead and talk about today more about scorecards and specifically the sales process and utilizing the scorecards to increase your sales. So I'm going to buzz through a couple of things here, and which brings me to the story. I don't know about you guys, but I've been watching Allison Felix, who was on the U.S. track and field team for the London Olympics. And the neat thing about her story is that she competed in the 2004 Athens and the 2008 Beijing Olympics, and she finished in second place in the same event to the same woman in the previous two Olympics. So here she comes into London 8 years later from when she first started competing. She's 26 years old. She goes in for the third time in the same event, faces the same woman she's already lost to twice, and she's finished twice, and her results are the gold medal. So it really got me thinking about, what did she, how did she do it? And so I dug a little deeper into her story, and I found out that after she lost in Beijing in 2008, she went and hired a new coach, this guy right here. His name's Bobby Kersey, and you maybe haven't remembered the name Jackie Joyner Kersey, that's her husband. And so she started training with him. He came up with a new training regimen for her. They set specific goals about how fast she needed to run in order to win the race, and then they went through this system of continuous process improvements by focusing on what she was weak at and making those her strengths. So of course we know what the results were, where it was a gold medal. So I wanted to look at this and say, we have been through obviously a lot of struggles with in new homes here over the last 6 years, and what are the results really that we want as salespeople and as builders and owners? And so the problem, of course, with our business is there's no second or third place. Either we're getting gold or we're going home empty-handed. So I looked at it and said, okay, how do we as salespeople, deal with and overcome our most fierce competitors, and how do we stay on top once we get there? So a couple of things we've already started with, and hopefully you have these completed, is first and foremost, what would your gold medal caliber year look like? And of course, there's a guy out there by the name of Dr. Stephen Covey who has the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. When he talks about is you begin at the end in mind. So this has all been presented to you by your sales managers or by your owners as far as filling out what your unit projections are, and I think we were going to do August through December of this year, what your projected average sales price is, what that volume would be, and then you can go ahead and figure your commission rate and what your gross commission income is. Then we go down here and we actually fill in what your projected sales are per month. And Mike, for remodeling, it looks like this. Hopefully you have done this or something like this. You can project by project and then down by month, but when you will do the projects, and so we're able to recap what's been done on a monthly basis. And then this is the actuals right here. So the actuals are, okay, you projected in August to sell how many homes, and then you make a note on here of what you actually sold. Were you behind your goals? Did you meet your goals, or did you exceed your goals? That's the big picture. So what would gold look like to you? If you want to make a certain dollar amount, begin at the end in mind and then break that down into units. So next, what happens is we're going to look at things on an annual and a monthly basis as it relates to goal setting and actual production. And then we get down to, okay, what would your week look like? Interesting, what would your week look like? So I came up with something a long time ago called the 4 Ps. The 4 Ps. And what I looked at is that as a new home salesperson, when I was selling actively and I was managing actively, I said, what are the 4 things that I need to focus on in order to make me as efficient and effective as possible as a salesperson? And I looked into it and I said, okay, well, it's really number 1 would be preparation or personal development. So I need to be spending each week on preparing and also improving, sharpening the saw, from another Stephen Covey habit. Then number 2 would be prospecting. Okay, so reaching out to my future buyers and owners. Number 3 would be presenting to my existing prospects. And then number 4 would be my partner relationships. And so what I went and I broke down is about how many hours or what percentage of my time, if I had a 40-hour work week, would I be spending this on. And so it broke down into these particular figures here. And so what we're going to do now is move forward is we're going to go and break these down a little bit more, and then Runa's going to show you how that ties into the scorecards within the system, and then also how you would record your activities using the follow-up notes. So again, beginning with the end in mind, I want to make this much money. I need to sell this many units to do it. I need to sell this many per month, each month to make that. And now I'm looking at each week, what am I doing in order to accomplish that goal? So hopefully everybody's with me. Mike, you still with me?
I'm still with you. I'm following it.
All right. So Runa, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give you controls here, and then you can go ahead and go through these slides here as the Ubix part of it. I think you might be muted, Runa.
I am. Thank you. Yeah, switch to my desktop and I'll go through my slides.
Oh, all right. I can switch.
Yeah. Okay, so essentially what I'm going to do, first of all, just a quick context in this thing. We looked at this before, and I'm just going to quickly clip through this. But there are really, on the overall improvement process that we're putting in place, there's really 4 items. The one we're looking at today is the sales part of it, the action plan. We are also working on the customer side, collecting intelligence, and I think within the next couple of weeks we actually will have that, and you can see the size of the different stages and the conversion and the source and everything. And then we'll go into the sales funnel and then the communication and nurturing dialogue. So this is the context of what we are doing. We are only looking at this part right now, but there are 3 other parts coming into this. Now, if you look at the scorecard process, the action plan process, essentially what I would start with is the sales automation on a high level. So basically we know that the sales automation basically collects customer intelligence and it drives to communication. And then from that we take it into the sales funnel and we know who is doing what now online. So this is a setting for this. Then what happens is that in the sales funnel on a daily basis or every couple of days we go in, we look at that, we find sales-ready opportunities, and we find that about 40% of prospects actually come in through the sales funnel. So it's significantly effective in generating leads that can be converted into prospects. Then, of course, the salespeople come in and they basically follow up, send out emails, make phone calls, send out direct emails, having meetings. So this is the setting for what we are doing now on a scorecard side. The next thing we do then is we actually get into the scoring. So the scoring basically means that all this sales activity, or the significant sales activity, or the value creation part of the sales activity, and we're going to dig into that and look at how we do the scoring and how the scoring actually correlates with the value that we are creating as salespeople. We are then tracking this on a daily basis, and out of this we get the scorecard. So the scorecard comes out. So this is basically the context in what we are doing, and we can see the sales activity, we can see the what actually happened, we can see the scoring, applying the scoring to the actuals. We see the targets that we send, and as we start accumulating data, we also would have trends. So on a 90-day or on an annual base, we can see how we're doing. I thought that we would look at one aspect that I think is very important, and I think is coming up right now, and that is the human side of what we are doing. The starting point of this thing, of course, is to sit down with the sales staff, and you as a salesperson will sit down with your sales manager, You will set objectives that, Rick just went through a plan for the year and, what you want to accomplish. You go through the training so you understand how this is working, how the scoring system is working. We set the targets and we get to agreements on what we are doing. And then there are really two paths from here. One path is self-management and the other path here is sales management. So these two should come together and basically review, and the review would be on a weekly basis. And based on review, we can then take, the observations that we have. We can look at the analytics, and we can then, look at improvements we can make, and we can go back up again, to the planning process. So this is actually an ongoing process. As we start accumulating information about this, we can see what is working. We can see what is working across the different salespeople. We can see what is working across companies, and we will also be able to see across industries, so different segments of the market, different geographic areas. We can see what actually is happening. So all I want to do here, I just want to position this, and I want to ask Rick, why would you as a salesperson be excited about what we're doing here? What do you call it? VIFM? Is that what the station is, Rick?
WIIFM. What's in it for me? Right? What's in it for the salesperson? So Chris, I did unmute you. Can you talk?
Yeah, I got you now.
Okay, great. And Quinn, I'm going to go ahead and try to unmute you too. Quinn, are you there?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, great. So you guys can get some feedback here. So Chris, you and I had a conversation about this yesterday, and of course, introducing this to salespeople, nobody wants to be micromanaged. So the question is, why would I want a scorecard? Why would I want to track my activities each week? Well, number one is I think it's important that everyone has set their goals. So it all goes back to how much money do I want to make for the year. So that would be very, very important that you get all those things finished. Then from there, you look at, okay, if you want to work 20 hours a week, 30 hours a week, 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week, whatever it is you're going to work, time you're going to put into accomplishing those goals, you're really responsible to yourself first, and that's the self-management aspect of it. So in other words, if you're going to put the time in, you might as well put the time in and be the most efficient and effective salesperson you can be. And the only way to do that is to go back and look again at the analogy of what Allison Felix did in the Olympics. I have to measure every single part of my process and make sure that I'm as efficient, as effective as I can be in all areas. And if I have a weak area, which the scorecard will then will show, then I need help from my sales manager or my owner to bring up my weak spot and make it my strength. So that's the correlation here between the self-management from the salesperson, plugging away, trying to, achieve their goals, and the sales manager helping them achieve those goals. So that comes back to that planned encounter, reviewing the results, coaching up, and then using those analytics to go ahead and improve. So that's part one. And part two, which we don't have on here, which I'm going to highly recommend for both of you, is to introduce that recognition program that we talked about last week, and publicly, give people a pat on the back for whoever has the highest points per week, per month, per quarter, and per year. And once you get into monthly and quarterly and annual, is that you put some sort of a monetary bonus with that, whether it's in the form of a gift card to a restaurant or perhaps a annual could be a nice vacation for that. So that way you don't have to, the scorecard is based on all the activities, not just sales. And so people that are in B or C locations that don't have the market demand as maybe others do, they still potentially could be the best salesperson because they've been putting their time in and they've been making sales when maybe it's much harder to do it in that location. Chris, any follow-up from this, or Quinn, follow-up from this from what we discussed already?
I think we just need to implement it. I'm going to try to lay out a recognition program and based on everything that you've said. So for us, it's really just getting it going. really.
Yep. And I know you're still doing it with the leads, you know, distributing leads for who's using the system and who isn't. So that would be part 2 to the recognition program. So I think it's important that we, you know, start with recognition. Don't make it as a micromanaging, but and then just support people if you're noticing that, hey, they're making phone calls but they're not getting meetings, or they're in a first meeting but they're not getting to a home site review, or they're not getting to the purchase agreement from the home site review. You know, then we're able to go back and dig a little deeper and find out, okay, what's been happening? Why aren't a higher percentage of these converting? And Chris, you mentioned it yesterday. The important thing is always the conversions. The numbers just tell us the conversions. So that's the important part, is that they have a high percentage of people going through. And as we get more and more data, we will be able to give you feedback on the type of conversions, the targets, you know, as Runa has laid out here, for conversions that you should really be going for. Chris or Gordon, anything else from you guys?
I'm kind of the same boat as Quinn. We're just getting a little bit of pushback, trying to get people to bite off on it. And so, yeah, we're going to do try to do a recognition program and the leads as well.
Can I make one observation, Rick?
Yeah, go for it.
Not being a salesperson here, but having some thoughts. So my thinking is that it's important to understand that this is a team effort. This is not a single performer activity. And that's why I brought up the process overview in the beginning. There are really 4 components to this. This is only one component. The other one, which deals with the customer intelligence, really, in a way, gets back to management and gets back to us, Rick and myself. Make sure that we provide those sales-ready opportunities on a timely basis for the salespeople, that we do what we need to do on our side to make sure that there's enough leads coming into the system. There are no prospects coming into the system. There are, you know, open house programs. There are, you know, realtor programs. There are, you know, home shows. There are Facebook programs. There are all of these things that we are doing. The communication track and make sure that the communication we're sending out actually is working, that it's effective, that we can identify touch points that are not effective, that we can improve those. Second point. Third point is
Did we lose?
only one.
Oh, there we go.
Somebody in the car.
Yeah, we lost you for a second, Runa. Sorry.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yep.
Huh. So that's my point. My point is this is a team. This is a team sport. This would be like rowing a 4 whatever park boat or whatever. So there are 4 parts here that really plays together, and 3 of these parts are really there to make the salesperson having as much opportunities as possible.
Yep. So let's start with recognition, then support, and only until a salesperson has proven, over time that they're not willing to do the activities that you need them to do, then you can look at, more of it from a dehiring or a recruiting process. But let's give them the benefit of the doubt right now that we're going to reward them for doing their job and give them some recognition.
Okay, I think that's all from my side. I know I'm coming in later, so
I'll switch
be
back.
prepared to do that. Yeah.
Let me get to my next slide. Okay. So one of the things when I look at when we get into preparation of personal development, which is really the first step, is I looked at 95% of your success is determined by what you do when you're not in front of the prospect, and this is the one Achilles heel I think of salespeople, is not enough time spent in preparation and personal development. And if we go back to that graph that I showed you before, this is approximately 9 hours a week or 23% of your time on a 40-hour work week. So what we found is that the better the preparation and personal development, the more efficient and effective you are when you're in the next 3 steps. right? So when you are prospecting or you're in front of people presenting or you're, working your referral network. My personal story was that I was not a natural great salesperson when I was selling, but I would always out-prepare my competition, and I would spend many hours honing my process each week. So when I got to the point where I had to present, I was much more confident. I was much more efficient and effective when I was in front of prospects. There's a little thing out there that says is that why do people buy from salespeople? And it was a survey done. I can't remember which university did it, but what it came down to it was that 7% of the decision to go with a certain salesperson was based on their product knowledge. And I said, you know what, I agree with that. However, I also agree that product knowledge leads to confidence. And so the more you understand your product, the more you understand your process, the higher your confidence level, and it allows you to excel in all the other areas. So maybe you don't need, to know absolutely everything about the homes or the remodeling that you're selling, but the more that you understand that process, the more confident you are when it gets in front of the client. So 4 areas here: market research, your sales environment, education, and training. So market research, we've gone into this before. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here. One of the things that we have to do, obviously, is we need to track our competition, do our market research on our competition. New competition, so this would be from our competitors. Competitor B and C, all of us have probably 2 or 3 main competitors. We got to know what they're doing. We got to look at used competition as it relates to new used homes for sales, and that goes back to an inventory analysis. So Chris, I know at one point we're doing inventory analysis, absorption rates each month. Hopefully you're still doing that because it's so simple. And Quinn, if you're taking notes, this is where you want to make a note that every one of your salespeople should be doing an inventory analysis in their micro markets each month. And okay. If you don't know how to do this, I'll certainly give it to you. We have a little spreadsheet. But Chris, it takes, maybe 2 minutes to pull the data off the MLS? I mean,
yeah, once you have the search is all saved.
Right. You set the search, you save it, and you just update it each month. And what it does is it tells us what the absorption rate is for the micro market. So this could get down to the neighborhood, the school district, the city, whatever that the neighborhood is in. And then you'll find out what your competition is, and then you just divide the absorption by the competition. It tells you how many months of inventory you have there. So 6 months is considered a balanced market. That means the buyer or seller doesn't really have an advantage. So if we find markets where we're at 10, 12, 13 months, we need to be really aggressive on our pricing and perhaps our offer. If we get into markets where we're seeing a few of them here and there now, 2 to 3 months of inventory, you need to get more aggressive on your pricing as far as raising your prices. Don't leave money on the table. Okay, so sales environment. Now here you need to think visuals. Very, very important. Very, very important for visuals. I would encourage all of you to be meeting regularly with your trade partners, whether it's once a quarter, whatever. Have them come in to a sales meeting, talk about new products, new updates in the industry. So it could be anything from obviously stone to hardwood floors or whatever. I also would encourage all of you to be using professional photos. I was talking with a new client that we're working with right now in Fast Start, and he was asking about, his website, what's the most impactful thing he can do on his website, and I said, get professional photos. And of course, that goes right to the MLS. People, again, are eliminating you online if they don't like your pictures. Or they're going to include you because they do like your pictures. Same thing for remodeling, Mike. You got a nice project, you should be getting it professionally shot and putting those into your photo gallery. Huge opportunity there to get more business. MLS data. Each of you should have a to-be-built, low, medium, and high for your neighborhoods. So take your breadth of offering, 200 to 350. Make sure you got a to-be-built at the low end, in the middle, and at the high end on top of whatever model or inventory home that you have in there. And, of course, you can still put in photos from your inventory homes or models on those to-be-builts. And then number 3 would be open house dates for MLS. All of you should be able to enter open house dates on your listings. A lot of people now will go into Remax or whatever because of broker reciprocity, and they'll be able to see your open house on other websites. So it's a great way to network. And then finally, web updates. You know, I look at is that your salespeople need to know what's going on in the web. And Mike, same thing with you. You know, what's going on in your web. And there's information that you need to have on there. You need to get it on there and be able to direct people to it, share links, you know, via Ubix. Obviously, you can track those links, but very, very important that you keep those visuals updated on a regular basis. Okay, so education. This is about 5 hours per week. Pretty simple. Reading and seminars. Reading and seminars. And if you're in a, Chris, you and I have talked about this, and Quinn, I'm not sure if we have, but when you're in a multi-salesperson environment, great thing to do is to, you know, pick a book to read, assign one salesperson to read it, and then give a report about what they learned, you know, give it to the other salespeople about what they liked about the book or perhaps didn't like about the book. So an internal book club, if you will. And then I'm going to go into training. You know, this is where owners and managers need to step in. So this goes back to that continuous process improvement. Once you get into where you determine that there's a bottleneck in the sales process and you want to coach somebody up, you always want to do it in a private situation first before you would say go into a public role play. So when you approach someone and of course you say, hey, I want, you know, let's talk about your initial consultation. You know, what are you, to walk me through it. What are you saying or not saying? And have them present to you. And then be able to take notes and give them critiques. But it's the difference of being able to do it versus saying they can do it. Every salesperson, of course, says they can do it, but when it comes down to it, and you know, a lot of them struggle with actually doing it correctly. So simulated sales is very, very important. All right, so let's move on to prospecting. Step number 2 here. Really, what's the right mix today? This is actually a picture of Mike. I took this of him yesterday here.
That's my good day.
That's exactly. Marty was saying, Mike, you need to make your calls. So what's the right mix? So we'll talk about 3 here, and then Runa's going to go in and talk a little bit about the system, some updates that we put in the system. So mail, phone, email, and we're getting to social media a little bit because it's important that salespeople are actually partaking in social media, just because their prospects, our prospects, let's face it, you know, are on Facebook a lot today. So how do we utilize, you know, that fact to be able to reach out to them via Facebook if they're not willing to answer a phone or perhaps read an email? Okay, so on mail, first things first, snail mail is still a great follow-up tool. And what I recommend is that you have a thank you note after each substantive face-to-face meeting. So you've got the first initial consultation, go to their house, Mike, in your case, or they're coming to the model home for that sit-down. Okay, so number 2 would be a home site review or a design consultation. You know, Mike, if you're bringing them in, they're meeting with a designer, you're going to go through preliminary specs, preliminary selections, whatever it is. If you're doing a scope and range meeting, you know, whatever that second main meeting is. So thank you after that. And then obviously the plan deposit or purchase agreement. But that, you know, those are the big 3 there. Important thing here is that you should be getting some sort of money, whether it's refundable or non-refundable, in step number 2 from a home site reservation, and then a plan deposit is hard money. But those thank you notes, obviously the open rates are nearly 100%. Nobody gets mail anymore besides junk mail, and so getting that handwritten thank you note in the mailbox is a big deal. Okay, so phone. This is actually a picture of Chris. He got a brand new phone yesterday. So Chris, it's beautiful, by the way, and I love the beard too. 15, so voicemail doesn't count, and our goal is to do 15 prospect contacts each week. So the problem is sometimes salespeople don't have 15 people to call. So when you don't have 15 people to call, you fill in with your referral partners, and that would be realtors, that would be past clients, that would be any trade partner, anybody that potentially is going to bring you business. Could be a personal sphere of influence too. And obviously the big thing on the phone is short phone calls and avoid too much information. You know, extended questions from prospects should always be used as an opportunity to set up a meeting, a face-to-face meeting, assuming that they're a viable prospect. So I talked to one of the salespeople that I worked with the other day, and she said, yeah, I'm on the phone with this guy for 40 minutes. At some point, when you see those questions keep coming and coming and coming, you have to, sort of give the time out and say, hey, these are some great questions. It's really difficult for me to answer these over the phone. Can I make a suggestion? Let's get together, and I've got some things I can show you that will help you get the information you're looking for, and use that as a reason to get that appointment. And then finally, email. And Runa, you're gonna, right after this, we're gonna switch over to you, and you're gonna go through a couple of new things on email that we've put together. So should be a combination of group and personal. And right now, I don't think any salesperson is using the e-announcement within the system. So Runa's gonna just do a quick training on that right now. But just as a couple of updates, I don't think you guys are using this, but multiple subject email newsletters are out. They don't get read anymore, so don't do them. What we want to focus on is either a single subject group email, driving them back to, say, like a open house event, so back to a web page, or more like a blog broadcast, where it's a series of perhaps like a tweet. There's 2 or 3 subjects on there, and they're able to click on any one of those links and then go back to perhaps a blog post to find out more on there. But avoid the multiple subject newsletters. Obviously, using the AIDAT formula for formatting personal emails, and we have added that into the system. Runa will show you that. Once in a while, you get someone that just stops communicating with you, and maybe their preferred source of communication is email. Well, of course, with email, you only get the written word, right? So it's very difficult to communicate, especially sensitive, or I would say, major topics. And so there's a thing out there called iJot, iJot.com. It's where you can record a video. You can do it like from your webcam on your computer, and you can use tone of voice and body language. Guess what? You can make it more real. So if you need to create urgency, if you need to express some sort of emotion that you can't usually get in the email, you can send them an iJot video mail. And it's really very, very cool, 1 or 2 minute message. It's free, so go ahead and get yourself an account and use that. The one downfall is you won't be able to record it in Ubix, but the upside is you may be able to get an important message across via email that would otherwise not have come across correctly using just the written word. And Runa, you're going to go ahead now, and I'm going to switch actually back over to you.
And could you make Adriana a panelist as well, in case I need some help?
Yeah, you know what, Adriana, I'll unmute you.
Or,
I just unmuted her, so she's good.
If I have any questions. Okay. It looks like I am on. Okay. The first thing I'm going to do is basically jump into the, the best practice part of this. I am in the action plan. And I have gone in, I clicked on add a note. You can of course open any note you have here. And what we have done and what we'll be doing now is that we will start putting in best practice suggestions directly in here. So if you are in here, you're planning to send an email, you can basically go in here and click this one, bring up the content, and basically go through the steps, the best practice steps from Rick about how to do this. Now we're going to expand this functionality a little bit, but this is what we have right now, and this should be available to you right now. So this would be for email. There would be similarly another one for phone, and you can go right in here and look at it. And if you're sending an email, you might also just copy this in. And just go to send an email. You can paste it in, and you can basically use that as sort of a cheat sheet to to construct your email. So that's just a quick update. Next, Rick, do you want to go to campaigns, e-announcements?
Yeah. Let's do that.
Okay. And then raise your hand if you have any questions here, and I'll pause and get to that. The next thing is really the e-announcement. E-announcement is basically the campaign part of the system here. It's a powerful, way of communicating. We have 3 categories of communication from Ubix. One is the automated communication, the nurturing program. You don't need to worry about that. It goes automatically. We have the direct communication, which you are doing as a salesperson. And of course that you do have to pay attention to. And then we have basically what we would call a traditional campaign method. Most CRM systems would have that. and we have it also. We have it in in Ubix. The way you get to it is basically go into communication, click on campaign, go back to e-announcement, and that basically brings up this screen here. The difference between this and the other ones is that e-announcement basically sent out the same message to a target group at the same time. The automated emails will basically manage communication individually. So we basically time phase the communication based on when people are coming into the dialogue. And of course, direct communication is direct communication. Whenever you send it, and it usually goes to one person. So this campaign communication then is basically one message to a group. I'm just going to, I'm of course, as normal, I'm in NIH here, and I'm just going to, pick one. We'll take, maybe spring newsletter. It's basically an announcement going out to a group. We could bring that up, and basically this is the content in this email or in this announcement. It is not necessarily important. I think the important thing is that you have a lot of capabilities in here. You have, the whole, editing palette in here, and you can, put a lot of stuff together. So this is then a Parade Home announcement going out probably to leads and to targets. I'm sorry, to leads and to prospects. And the way you get this out is essentially that you go down and you select, you create what you want to send out. Adriana can help you with that if you need to. And you might want to keep it not too complicated, but you have a lot of capabilities here. You will go down to next step. Let me just, click on next step. Bring that up here, and here you have a number of options, but I think the key option in here is that you can send it to a list. So now we have a list. I put the list together, and I'm just going to go in and point to it here. I created a list here today, this morning. I could select this, and then I click send email, and it will send it out. Now there are other options in here. You could we could set up a rule engine. That means that it would be, instead of being a list, it would be dynamic. It will basically send it out to everyone who are leads and prospects at the moment. You can key in a list of customers here. You can send it to direct emails, and you should always test this out. You should always go in and basically send this one to yourself. Check it out. Check all the links. Make sure it's working correctly. And basically test it before you send it out.
One of the best practices I use with this is I will always send it to my Outlook account, and then I'll send it to a Gmail account too, because they'll display a little bit differently, and just make sure that they're not going into spam, and also that the display looks correct in both. That I'll check link functionality for them before I send it out. So I just click on that send email too, where Runa's at right now. Put your two email addresses in there and do it. And let me give you an example here of, as a salesperson, when you would want to use this. For home building, it's pretty simple because I've got specific things happening in a specific neighborhood, and so I'm able to send those out. Now, for a remodeler, Mike, like you could, anything that comes up in remodeling. So perhaps it's a new product that someone just used. Perhaps it's for, we just want to do maybe a private showing on a completed project versus an open house. And I'm just going to send out a couple of e-announcements for that. You could do something like if you're in a home show, or excuse me, like a parade of homes or remodeler showcase. Anything you can think of. And the nice thing is then you can categorize who you want it sent to. Let's say you're doing a client appreciation party. Okay, I send an announcement out just to invite my past clients. I'm going to do something for my trade partners. I send an email out just to, or owners, yeah, exactly, owners. Excuse me, thank you. But you can categorize that. So as a salesperson, you really want to have one of these group communications going out monthly, once a month, because there's always something to talk about. Interest rates, new financing. I mean, anything you can think of that would be pertinent to your particular target market. And again, going back to home builders, location-specific things. an update on your school district, an update on the city, an update on the park maybe being developed in your particular neighborhood. Anything you can think of, a new model opening, a new inventory home price reduction, you know, whatever it is. But that's when you would use this, and all of you have access to it, each and every salesperson.
Let me make another comment here also, is that in the communication cycle, you know, the different, you know, through the life cycle of a customer, you know, obviously someone comes in as a lead, they go immediately into the nurturing program. Typically, nurturing program would have about 25 touch points, lasting probably about 4.5 months. But once they are done, and there's no more new automated communication going out. So this is actually then the vehicle to continue to stay in touch with people, get them in on a radar screen, which is basically the sales funnel. So if you have a monthly newsletter, you can then suddenly see, okay, so this person, you know, communicated with him, 12 months ago. Now it seems like he's interested again coming in. So this is a critical part of basically keeping communication going after the nurturing program. Everything is run its course. This is the way you continue to stay in touch with people.
And this works great for B prospects, right? Because they're not in the nurturing program, and you're really not following up with them on a weekly basis because they're not ready.
True.
So a B prospect is sort of in the middle, and this is great for them.
Yeah. Let me just quickly jump in and show you how you create the list. How I created this list this morning. Basically, I will go into customers. I will go into maintain customers. I'll bring that up here. So here we are. And I will go in and I will basically, first of all, some confusion here. This basically makes sure that you see the last 30 days of leads and prospect customer going into the system. I will eliminate that. I will go down to more options. I will basically select the stages that I'm interested in here. I will run a search, which I'm doing right now. And this could take, a few seconds to put this together.
The larger your database, the longer it takes, right, Rena?
So, yeah, that's right then. So, NIH is diligent, continually building their database, which is very important. And so they have 1,378 leads and prospects in the system. You can see here, these are the leads and the prospects. I will basically click here, save as a list. And then I will go in and basically, put in the list name and some description to it and save it. And that is actually the way that I get to the, to finding the announcement. I lost my place here, but that's what we looked at earlier. Should I switch now, Rick, to the score definitions, perhaps?
We've got 4 minutes left, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the recording here, and we'll break this training into 2 parts, and we'll do the next part here in September. So I want to actually open it up for questions right now from anyone on the e-announcements or the email best practices or phone or scorecard or anything like that before we conclude today. And Mike, thanks for being on as a panelist. Maybe we'll start with you as far as any feedback on any of these tools here or questions that you have.
These templates in here that to send out to my leads and prospects, they're already in here in the software that I can use, or do I have to make those up? And then question number 2 is, as we move in and we're kind of on our own with this, are we the ones generating the leads and monitoring the funnel?
Runa, do you want to just hit the create an e-announcement button and show Mike where to grab the templates?
Yes, and basically, yeah, let's do that. And you get in here, and basically what you would do is that, the templates are basically very specific to your organization. So you would go in here and you would basically go into create e-announcement, and I'm relying on Adriana as well here as we get in. I would go in and select a template that is specific to, and we can go down here and maybe we can find Mary here. Bring this in. So this will be the starting point of your e-announcement. But from here, you would basically all of this are basically space holders. So you would basically go in here and say, okay, this is where I'm going to put in my stuff, and then you will go out and you will go to the the picture palette. You would copy in pictures. You would do different things that basically in order to build the communication. Adriana, I want to go to you and see if you have any thoughts or suggestions for Mike here as he is doing this.
It looks like the templates are the same for the e-announcements as they are for the customer one-on-one email. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. So Mike, whatever you have available to you right now in customer one-on-one, you're going to have available for e-announcements.
Okay, so we can add to this, so.
Yep.
We could put in our own pictures, whatever. Is something that we have to do on our end.
Right, and what Runa's showing you right now with the image holder is you can upload new images there. You can, right. Runa, show them where the links are.
I just want to make sure it's user-friendly for us to bring in our own photos and
it's very simple. You can create new links here. You just go in and create link at the top right there. And so you want to link to something on your website or to perhaps a blog post or anything on the online. You'd bring it in and then you just insert the link into the email.
What is perhaps a little bit different here is that since you are sending this out to a group of people, the substitutions would be more important. So we have a ton of substitutions here that you can put in. So most of these should be self-explanatory, but you can basically go in, and copy in,
Right.
So
there's stuff we can. Answer my question. There's stuff in there that I can work with and just modify it, edit.
Yes.
Once you use it, it's like anything else. Once you use it a few times, you'll get used to the functionality. And Adriana, if you want to get feedback from her when you do your first couple, she'll be happy to guide you. And if you're wondering how to do this or how to do that. But great.
Question number 2, I can answer that. You can answer that tomorrow. Never mind.
What was question number 2 was?
Bringing in the lead, generating leads once we have the system ourselves.
Well, the sales funnel, you're always monitoring yourself anyway because...
Right, but those that come in there, that was part of that system that Rooney had kind of showed in the beginning. It goes back up to the circle where the generation of the leads.
Yeah, those are coming off your website. So you have web leads coming in automatically, and then you're going to have your own prospect entry that you put in there. And I would just caution, that when you do a manual prospect entry, is that assuming you have talked to these people, is that you categorize them as an A, B, and C right away.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Don't put them in as a D, because a D lead that comes into the system is truly someone you haven't talked to, and you want to be able to you might want to send out a specific e-announcement to them to try to get them to engage you in order so you can get their more contact information, a phone, an address, are able to talk to them and then qualify them. So I would always, in manual prospect entry, always categorize them as an A, B, or C, assuming that you've had a conversation with them.
Okay. Got it.
And then I want to emphasize again, which is really, really important, make sure that you send yourself a test email and you try out all the links and everything. I mean, when you send this out to 1,000 people and there are some, something that's not working or, something that's substitutions not where you wanted them, whatever, it's much more painful than if you send it out to one individual.
Good point. Always test first. Yep.
We have painful experience with this over the years.
Quinn, from you, questions, comments, feedback?
No, I don't think I really have any questions or anything right now. I would like a little maybe added training just kind of on the side about these e-announcements and different things like that. I know we're a little behind and we're kind of...
I agree with you. I think that would be good, especially for Marty.
Maybe we could set up a coaching session for a group of you. Raise your hand and let me know who would like to be in on that, and maybe we could schedule a session with Adriana and be in on that, and kind of. And a very good thing would be to have a specific campaign in mind for doing that, so we can be productive. you know.
Chris, would you like that too?
Yeah, I mean, depending on what we cover, yeah, it would be helpful.
It'd be just a tutorial on an e-announcement. I mean, what Adriana could do is she could set something up, just a group one, where she could just walk through and actually put a campaign together, create a list, create the email announcement, do the test, and then schedule it.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
Yeah, and then you would have a specific campaign in mind that you're going to do as an exercise afterwards.
Okay. Quinn, anything else from you?
No, I don't think so right now. Like I said, it's just a matter of just getting a good grasp on all of these new things.
I think this, when I look,
slowly.
just so you don't get overwhelmed, Quinn, when I look at this e-announcement, this is really phase 2. So Mike's sitting here saying, I get it, I understand the system, I'm using it. When you get your salespeople to that point and they want to go to the next level of functionality, that's when I would introduce this e-announcement to them. So I think it's important that you understand it, but also important that if somebody is still trying to grasp the basic concept or of using the system, customer 101, sales funnel action plan, this is probably maybe above their pay grade per se, right away. Get them comfortable with it at first, and then we can introduce this.
Okay.
Chris, your last one. Any questions, thoughts, or feedback from you?
No, I've got nothing else to add.
Okay. Just an update. Next Wednesday, we will not have a meeting. It's the 5th Wednesday of the month, and I'm actually going to be out in Utah anyway. So, Chris, my flight gets in at 11, and Runa and I are going to go right from the airport to the Hallmark office. So I would assume Runa will probably be there around noon. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, or if not before.
Okay.
I mean, from the airport, there's not that far away.
This is Tuesday, right?
This is Tuesday. Yeah, this is Tuesday, the 28th.
Okay, I was just making sure.
Yeah, Wednesday we will not have a meeting with you. Excuse me, Thursday, the 30th, we will have no meeting. 5th meeting of the month. So the next time that we get together is going to be September 7th from a Ubix virtual meeting here, owners and managers. So Chris, I'll email Gordon, let him know that we'll be there probably sometime between 11:30 and 12. And then I think, Runa, we probably have to leave at 2, is that right, to get to Nielsen by 3?
Yes, that would give us plenty of time.
Okay.
Yeah, I would
we'll
say, yeah.
Set up 2 for out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
That probably would be appropriate. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll let Gordon know, and then Mike, we'll talk tomorrow morning.
Yep, and it's going to be a webinar type situation. You're going to have this up, and so maybe I'll do it in the seminar room.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great.
And
Marty
so
probably has an idea too of how we're doing.
I'll talk to her. I'll go over all this with her.
Okay, fantastic. I will send the recording notes out here for today, and then we only got halfway through this, and so we will finish up with the other 2. That'll be on September 14th. Next on September 7th, we are going to come back with more information on mobile application, and I think, Runa, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're now tackling Facebook again. Is that right? Are we?
I have a meeting with Store after this, and we are then taking the next step with Facebook. Yes.
Okay.
And one more thing, Rick, could you forward the email from Marty to me, so I have that?
Which email?
The email in preparation for the meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
Mike told me that she just sent you an email on.
Yeah.
No.
I'll have her send that to you if you don't have it.
Okay. Perfect.
How's that sound? Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.